Hi everyone, so we are back today with another Behind the Screen series with StephyFung tonight. Hello, how are you, Steffi?
Hi guys, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
I'm really good.
Amazing.
Really good.
Yes, it's very nice to have you on this talk. But before we dive a bit more into your work, we'll just pass on the word to David, who is going to introduce us to KnownOrigin and to the wonderful work that the guys do in the digital art platform KnownOrigin. So David, after you.
Thanks, Serena. So, hi, I'm David Moore, one of the co-founders of KnownOrigin. We are a platform that is dedicated to bringing creative professionals into the NFT space and allowing them to showcase and sell the work that they create. We caught eyes on StephyFung's work through Instagram, and I saw some of the live tutorials that she was doing in the digital fashion scene. We're super excited about how the digital fashion scene is merging with blockchain and NFTs, and we're trying to bring some more digital fashion artists into the space. StephyFung is a 3D motion graphics designer, an artist, a mentor. She's super cool. I love what she does. We're going to learn lots more about her process and her inspirations in tonight's Behind the Screens. And without further ado, I will hand over to Serena and Steffi. But before I go, if you have any questions, please feel free to tweet me at KnownOrigin_.io, and I will try and pass those over to the guys. But other than that, have a great evening. I'll be behind the scenes. Reach out to me if you need me. And I'm looking forward to this one. So have a great evening. Enjoy it. And let's have another great Behind the Screens. See you soon.
Thanks, David.
Thank you so much, David. See you soon. Okay, so it's very nice to be talking to you today, Steffi, and I want to tell everyone that you're most welcome to share your comments and questions throughout this live talk, and we'll pick them up during the conversation. So, Steffi, I would love to know more about you as an artist and how you started developing your practice within the digital medium. So how did the story start with you approaching the digital space?
Yeah, I guess in terms of 3D, I've been doing it for about 4 years now. This will be my 4th year. When I started was actually during university. I studied graphic design, and then I found graphic design really boring because it was static, and I kind of gravitated towards motion graphics in the end. And I think the reason why I love animation so much is because when I was a kid, I would watch it all the time. I would watch things like Disney animation, Ghibli animation. I would watch a lot of anime. So, you know, the good old days with the VHS, and you would watch a lot of 2D animations. So that is something that has really influenced me growing up. And I just really like animation because of the storytelling aspect. So I guess for me, studying static graphic design was just not satisfying. And I just started to push all my projects towards motion graphics. And I guess I learned from YouTube. I'm a self-taught designer, and I learned from Grayscale Gorilla and iDesign. So props to them for putting up tutorials on YouTube. And then just kept on practicing for 4 years to get where I am today.
Wow, yes, that sounds like a real commitment to something that you really like and want to discover day by day. And I also want to ask you more about your background, because in some of the works we've seen a lot of references to Asian history as well. And I would love to know more about those aspects and how you've been integrating cultural, references into your work.
Yeah, so I guess my most current work is actually a nod towards my Chinese culture. So I'm British Chinese. I was born in London. And I guess as a kid growing up, I wasn't really that affluent or didn't really appreciate my Chinese heritage as much as I do now as an adult. And what I've realized is that now as an adult, I realize how much history that I don't even know about Chinese culture, and even like the clothes or the food or the culture or even the language. So if you ask me, like, I know history about like Henry VIII, for example, but I don't even know history about my own culture. So this is why I'm so passionate about what I do right now. It's also a way for me to educate myself, but also to educate other people who don't know much about the Chinese culture. So it's kind of like a win-win. I learn, you guys learn, and also it's a celebration as well. So I don't really see a lot of this type of work in the 3D industry currently, and I'm just trying to push that movement forward of showing more cultured pieces within the 3D industry.
Absolutely. And I think you should definitely continue to do so, because we learn with you, as you said, and seeing so many references, it also stimulates us to keep on researching and exploring things that we don't see very often. So thank you for that. Absolutely. And I know that you've been, as David also introduced the concept about digital fashion, have been designing different garments into the fashion, or what today is called digital fashion. I would love to hear more about your interest in fashion and how you've been developing those artworks that are something in between an artwork in itself and a wearable as well. So how do you see these two elements combined together?
Yeah, so digital fashion was actually something I picked up only last year. So it's only been a few months. Like it's only been about 7 months, I would say, that I've been learning digital fashion. But the thing that really inspired me was when I worked on a project in 2019 with a community that I'm in called DigiGirl. Now, it's a 3D community for LGBTQ plus and female 3D artists. So we were commissioned by Selfridges to create digital fashion. They curated a collection that we had to create into a 3D environment. So at the time, I did not know how to make digital fashion. I was amazed that there was 2 artists who could do it, and there was 3 artists like me we were doing the 3D environment for it. So when I watched the 2 that could do it, I just saw what they could do with digital fashion, and it fascinated me. And it wasn't until a year later in 2020 that I thought, you know what? I'm gonna pick this up. I'm gonna give it a go. And it really clicked. I found it really easy to understand how to make digital clothing. And I thought, what could I make in digital clothing that could, one, mean a lot to me, and also could be quite different. And that is, of course, showing Chinese culture or the Chinese garment within my work. And so regarding your question, currently my works are artworks. So it's like an artwork piece, but I'm definitely interested in seeing how digital wearables can be included in my work in the future.
That's interesting that you bring this perspective, that you talk about it, because also David at KnownOrigin is asking a great question that it's kind of, on going on the same line. Can fashion be art? And you just described that your works, it is art. But it's interesting to see how also, for example, the background and anything that is within what we see and what we experience is designed to be an artwork in itself. I'm curious to kind of develop this concept a little more and ask you, before we go and see the actual work and discussing it a bit more into detail, how you would, we're kind of used, just to give some background, to see fashion normally on a catwalk or simply just experiencing it in real life. And it's only been recently that digital fashion became more prominent on our screens, and we are more used to see it, on our devices. So how do you feel your work would be or should be best seen or experienced? What's your idea about also the sustainability of digital fashion and the way it's made available to the public?
That's really interesting. And I think for me, the best way to see it would be actually on yourself. Imagine if you could have like a VR glasses or AR glasses. Imagine you could have that and you could see your outfit on you, and you can like change your outfits as you want to choose. You can have your outfits, they could be glowing, they could be animated. There's so many things with digital fashion that you can't do with physical fashion. And I think that's the beauty of it. I think what also goes hand in hand with these kind of AR or VR wearables, which is, I think, where it's going to head to, is that you can also like create these 3D environments, which can help with the storytelling of the piece. And I think that's super powerful when it comes to having the whole concept of what the piece is and where it should be or where it should be shown.
Absolutely, yes. It's very interesting to be discussing those elements. And definitely, I think the way it should be experienced, it also connects very much to the content of what's in the work in itself. There's an interesting question going back to culture. How did you learn more about Chinese culture? Do you talk to your family, for example? Which I think it's quite interesting to discuss, because often, you know, our heritage is something that we learn through books, but also family members could be a great source of knowledge.
Yes, and thank you, Blue Wiz. I actually know him. Thank you for coming and sending a question. I guess for me, the funny thing is my mom and dad actually moved here when they were kids. So they probably only know a little bit more than me. So for me, I tend to find searching the internet and actually researching myself really helps, because most of my family are either they moved here when they were children or they're actually born in the UK. So it's quite fascinating how the third or second generation immigrant families are trying to reconnect with a culture that they've kind of lost signal with as they were growing up.
Interesting that we learn through the internet about culture, you know, our heritage, but it's definitely the way things work, and the fact that everyone is being more flexible, not recently, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, but up until last year, everyone has been most people, I would say, maybe not everyone, but most people in our generations have been living in different countries or experiencing different cultures. And so everything is sort of blended together. And my experience as well, living in London, has been that I came across so many people, so many different cultures, and only just a very few people I've met were raised and born in London. And often they were coming from different countries themselves. So it's interesting to see how culture is becoming truly globalized, but in a way that still feels connected with the original culture that we bring in. And taking these onto digital art, I think it also takes it to a different level, where we reconnect through the digital medium to our culture and try and communicate that through with the audience, to the audience. So it's fascinating how the circle sort of goes back to the start.
Yes.
I would love now to show some of your work, Steffi.
Yeah.
So I know we have a video, so I don't know if we can start with that or with some other works of yours. What do you think?
Yeah, we can start with the video.
Sure. So we're just going to add the video now on screen. I'm just playing it again from the start for everyone, and maybe Steffi, we can then have a chat about it.
Sure.
I was thinking maybe we can pause it every now and then and we can talk about what we see, perhaps.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So was this an installation that you did? I just see sample in the background.
Yeah, so this is a project with exports that I did with 23rd C Studio, and what it was, so this is actually a projection mapping right next to St. Paul's. So it's real, it's at the physical thing. And what it was, because of lockdown, they were meant to have an event to release their newest Xbox, which I believe is Xbox Series X. And because of lockdown, they couldn't do that event. So they had to stream it on Twitch. And what they did was a 6-hour stream. And they would showcase this cube behind you every so often. And I had to create some surface animations for that to basically generate hype and also to keep the visuals looking interesting. So I really enjoyed this one. This one was really cool to do. Oh, you're on mute, Serena.
Sorry, yes, because I was playing the video. I forgot.
No worries.
Yes, I see so many interesting things in the video that I would love to kind of discuss some aspects if you're happy with that.
Yeah.
I see this jewelry, and I was going to ask you whether this was part of the design of the wearable you created and how you made the actual design, because I also see a picture next to it. So if you can tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, so this was the project that I was talking about earlier, where I worked with DigiGirl, and there was 2 fashion designers, 3D fashion designers, and there was 3 motion designers like myself. Now, at that point, I was only able to model jewelry and the environment. So with this, I just had a picture to look at, and I had to try my very best to replicate that exact edit in store. So yeah. It's literally just me using Cinema 4D, using a few geometric shapes and trying my best to replicate this necklace, which turned out to be not too bad, actually.
Awesome. I'll keep playing the video and then we can stop in a bit again.
Sure.
I'd love to stop here as we are seeing some of the pieces that you currently have again on KnownOrigin, and I also would love to discuss more about the recent collaboration you had with the Fabricant. As I hear you've been part of a competition. Do you want to tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so Fabricant did a competition, and it was I think it was for Adidas and Cardi Kloss. It was for this clothing that they released, and the brief was they gave you this clothing, this kind of jacket, and you had to make it your own style. And the theme was also to empower women in tech, which I absolutely freaking love that, because it's so important that we do that, because there are not enough women in tech, in my opinion. So I really wanted to do that competition, and because 1, it was digital fashion. I'm really interested in digital fashion anyways, and 2, I wanted to showcase, what my take would be on it. And would you like to show the actual images? Then we could,
of course, yes.
We could talk through it.
In a moment.
So I guess the theme for me was, one of the main themes I wanted to do was Mulan. If you guys know the story of Mulan, is about this heroine who saves her country from the Huns, which is the enemies, and she's really kick-ass, and she's really smart and strong. So I guess for me, I just wanted to use that as a main story for my piece. And then the second thing was, I wanted to infuse my Chinese culture into the piece as well. So that was mainly the idea, and I guess it would be better if I could show you guys with the imagery.
Yeah, I'm showing now on screen.
With fast fingers, Serena's clicking.
Here we go. We should be able
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess this was during an R&D phase, and I think it's super important for artists to have an R&D phase, so research and development, because concept is king. It's all well and good for you to create something pretty and aesthetically good looking, but like, if you have a solid story or concept, it will push it a lot better, and people will resonate and understand it a bit better. So as I was saying, the theme here was definitely red. Red is a very strong and prideful, like a lucky color in Chinese culture. So I wanted to push that forward, and I was very interested, I'm still quite interested in traditional patterns. Like I took inspirations from, for example, the picture in the bottom left, and I actually illustrated my own patterns based on those kind of themes. And yeah, what I wanted to create was like a Chinese themed jacket, but in a modern way. I think like having an amalgamation of all these ideas and pushing it in a new way so you can make something new is always good.
Absolutely. I love this kind of like process that you went through, you know, studying different design, but also thinking about what's modern and what's tech inspired and what's the image of women that we have if we think about those characteristics. So it's very interesting to hear about also the background story of this design that you've created. And so I assume this is the final work.
Yes, so this is what I've submitted, and as you can see, it's very intricate pattern that you can see on the garment. So that was all hand drawn. Took me some time, but I did it on my iPad, which I find a lot easier, and then I transferred it onto my computer. And then I placed it on the garment, which I know in the brief, the garment, we couldn't actually change the shape of the garment. So that was not to be touched, but everything else, like the color palette, the theme, and all the patterns that I drew on, I drew that all by myself. And yeah, I'm really happy with this.
Yes, no, it's wonderful. It's really, really beautiful. And this is a unique edition or a one-on-one edition. Can you tell us a bit more about the NFT part and how you've also approached this into the NFT space? Because I think that's also part of the actual work in a way.
Yes. So in this competition, 20 people will be selected to have their artwork be sold on KnownOrigin, and I was one of those 20 shortlisted people. So I'm coming to NFT with the idea of selling one editions only, because I think that makes it more special in that case. I kind of, I know people can sell more than one edition, but to me, I think it's more special when you can just have like a finite amount and like a singular amount.
Of course, yes. It's interesting to hear a different perspective from artists on this point as well, and their feelings about approaching the NFT space and how that went for them. You know, everyone has a different story. I also would love to go through some other material that you shared with me. I don't know if we're good to show this one or we can move on to the next pieces.
Yes, I mean, well, this one is showing the process of that piece of that garment I created, and we can talk through it actually. So this is what I was saying beforehand. I drew everything on iPad and I translated it onto my computer, and it is one whole process because I'm kind of like, you will see a lot of like trial and error always in my process. I'm always experimenting. It's not always just like a smooth ride. So I'm always testing out to see what looks better. And yes, oh, one thing that is key in that animation actually, and you will see it soon, is that I wanted like a Cinderella moment where it kind of transforms from like a plain looking jacket to something, to the end product, which is the red jacket that you see here. So you can see now that I'm testing out the transformation, the wow moment. And that was something that I learned just for this project. And I'm really happy with the results. I'm really happy with this project.
Yes. I think you can definitely see all those steps in like these very few last seconds in the video where, you know, everything comes together at once and it feels so harmonious in a way. I wanted to ask you, during this process that you went through, how much did you involve the audience and people that were following you? You said that you normally broadcast on Twitch, and I wanted to know what kind of feelings you had towards the audience being part of that process, and how much of it did you embrace into your work?
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I stream 3D content on Twitch every Thursday, and the reason I do that is, well, I make personal projects every week, and for me, it's important that I show it because I enjoy doing that, and I enjoy people actually learning from me. And yeah, that's super important. But what I find is actually on Twitch streams, I learn more from my audience because they are usually the ones giving me tips like, hey, Steph, did you know you could do this? And I'm like, hold on, I did not know that. So it's really good. And also because it's lockdown, I've had a really lack of social life this year and last year. So Twitch is also a way for me to speak to people. And it's just really nice to have a conversation where either I'm teaching them something or they're teaching something to me, and we can both see the process. So I think it's really good to show that.
Absolutely, yes, yes. And it's interesting that we still find ways to connect with one another during these times and create those sort of communities and collaborative space where we can also learn from each other. And yes, showing this one as well.
Yeah, so these are just showing the process. Just in case you guys didn't catch it, because it spins so quickly, but I'm like, you guys really need to just see it go like whoosh. Like, it's very satisfying.
Yeah. And how did it feel for you when you saw the final piece coming together, you know, and actually how long did it take you, you know, from the research part until the final piece came to life?
Yeah, so I guess for me, I tend to work on the evenings for my personal projects, and I don't like to like force everything into one session. I kind of like have little spurts, and like it will build into something big. So I think for me, it took about 2 weeks of just like maybe like 2 hours a day. You know, I tweak a bit more or something like that. So yeah, seeing it come together is always so satisfying when you have, you know, of course the R&D phase, and then you think of the idea and then it actually comes into fruition. Like, that's the best part for me.
Yes, it must be very rewarding when you see it, you know, in its completion towards the end of your process. Cool. So I just go back onto the screen so I can see you. Here we go. Okay, cool. Wonderful. I also see there's a few comments in the chat, so I'll be able to share those. Yes, here we are. So we have David saying, great advice on R&D and concept-driven work. Absolutely. Can we all just appreciate how articulate Steffi is? Crazy. Yes, I
Thank
second
you.
that, Andreas.
I appreciate that. I don't consider myself articulate, but it's really good to know that you guys think that.
Yes, and everyone is enjoying your work as well, which is amazing. Yes, I just want to go back to this as well and carry on showing some of the work you have here. Also because I know the work you've done in digital fashion is also connected to some other work you've done that also represent symbols of the Chinese culture. And I wanted to ask you more about some other pieces that you have on Origin that also bring those imaginary forward to the audience, and how you worked on those pieces that are not into digital fashions but still connect to the culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Are we talking about this one here?
I just wanted to go back to, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, like these pieces that we see in the middle.
Yeah, so for example, the work in the middle, that one, well, for me, I know I love digital fashion, but I am also a 3D generalist as well. So in terms of my work and what I want to put out to the world is, I don't want to just be known for digital fashion. I really enjoy, of course, making different objects, making different 3D environments, and I kind of just want to be like an all-rounder. So for the picture in the middle, I wanted to create like a gift box. And I've been searching on Pinterest. For those who don't know, I love Pinterest. Like, it's my number one go-to, just to like, if I need inspiration, I go straight to there. And yeah, I looked up different types of gift boxes. Now, these gift boxes, you can either put like food in them, you can actually put an actual gift in them, like whatever you want. So they're usually very pretty. And what I just wanted to do with this was create one, and just like, my favorite color is blue, if you guys don't know. If you can't tell by my hair, my favorite color is blue. And yeah, I guess for me, it's just showing this, because I don't think most people would be aware of what a gift box would kind of look like in Chinese culture. Gotta say, not all of them look like this, but this is definitely one of those kind of things where I, as a kid, when my parents brought back home like food packaging or like gift packaging, I would kind of hoard them because I'm like, oh, this is a really pretty design. So even after we're done with eating the food, I'm like, I'm keeping this because the design is so pretty. And even the shape, hexagonal, like hexagon, is just like really interesting. So yeah, so little ways I can share a bit of education through my work is always the way.
Yes, yes. And yes, I love those vivid colors as well that you use, because it feels very real, but at the same time, you can see that it's fabricated in the way it's been designed. And so having this connection between something that may look, familiar to you, but at the same time is so unreal. It's in a perfect world that feels, however, very much connected to maybe your memories as well. That's very interesting. I'll keep playing this video, and then we can look at some of your other work that you shared with me.
Sure.
Lovely. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Yes. So I love to see so much of your work, and I think you've explored different topics. And I also seen in the video that we just showed a collaboration you did with Vogue, and I wanted to ask you more about that specific piece of that specific collaboration you had.
Yeah, so they contacted me via email, and when I saw that email, I think I must have been half awake, and I read my emails, and I sat straight up, and I had to run to next door, show my sister. I'm like, look at my email, look who just contacted me, because yeah, it's a big client, and I'm very grateful. I think they found me on Instagram, which I think is the beauty of social media, of how big companies, or it doesn't have to be a big company, but anyone can see your work via social media. So I was really grateful. They said they really liked my work. They were basically relaunching themselves, Vogue Singapore, on a digital platform. So back onto digital. And they wanted to commission a few artists to they had the theme of the Van der Vogue Orchid. And they wanted artists to basically take that theme and represent it in the artist's style. So when I saw it, I thought, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to rebuild the orchid in digital, and I'm going to make it from scratch. And I don't know why I did that, because it was very challenging. And I created it in Houdini. And for those who don't know Houdini, it's a very technical program. So I really challenged myself for that one. And I guess the theme for me is that, of course, in that project, I still showed Chinese elements. And that was probably at the beginning of me being really vocal and in terms of visualizing my work in Chinese with Chinese themes. So I made it into this orchid blooming to signify that Singapore folks gonna bloom, they're gonna do well, and also that I had this kind of sci-fi kind of color scheme, like blue and red, and I kind of went with that kind of vibe because I wanted to show the orchid, but I wanted to give it a little modern twist with the digital part of it. And you will see there's like digital glitches in it just to show that it's not a real orchid opening up.
Mm-hmm. It's lovely to hear that through social media. In a way, sometimes we feel we are, in our bubble, and we just share something, and we never know who's on the other side. There's actually people looking at the work. So I actually like to throw here a question that may be interesting as well for all the other artists watching this live stream. How do you feel about artists currently also being on social media and in a way sort of self-promoting that work? How does that feel to you? Do you think it's kind of like a second job you also have, or it's part of the role of being an artist that is important also to be visible?
Because on social media,
I hear, Yeah, like I think social media now has become a great part of being an artist and what you should do as part of your daily routine. And I hear from so many artists that love it but also hate it at the same time. And everyone seems to have a strong opinion about being on social media. And it's interesting to hear from artists how you think they should be embedded in the role of the artist, or if not.
Mm-hmm. To me, social media is very integral if you want to have a platform and if you want to build a following. I think that's super important. And the reason why I say that, especially if you're a digital artist, everything we make is visual, right? And everything, if you're like a 3D motion designer like myself, you make video, it's visual, and platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, they are all perfect for that. So why not use that to your advantage? Because it's like a perfect way for people to see your work. So I think it's social media. Yes, it can be tiring at times, but I think it is definitely there's more positives than negatives that come from it if you are willing to put in the effort.
Thank you for answering that. I think sometimes social media can also be seen in your profile as a manifesto for your art, and is a way of communicating that and sharing your ideas. And but yes, it's interesting to notice. I would love to share some other videos of your work, and then I think we can also take on some questions from the public.
Sure.
So yes, like we also have this one, which I find it so beautiful, and the contrast of this bright blue and the flowers on the garment and the background. And I love to ask you a question here, because as I keep watching these work, I think of the way you position the body, the fact that it's sort of tilted towards one side, and also the background, it's kind of like opposite and creates this very fascinating angle. So I would love to hear more about the perspective you used in this work.
So the perspective for me, I always want to put the clothing or the digital garment in the best way to show off the garment. So for me, you see in a qipao, they call this a qipao, they always have slits on the legs. So I kind of wanted to highlight that and showcase that, which is why I've kind of angled it at the way it's angled. And actually for me, I was really kind of mostly inspired in terms of color palettes as well. If you guys have watched the film In the Mood for Love, there's a lot of red, rich hues in that film. So I would say a lot of my inspiration comes from what I watch and what I see. And you would get that a lot through my work. And I usually would explain it as well within wherever I post it. So yeah, this one's definitely inspired by In the Mood for Love. It's a Hong Kong film and made in the 90s, I believe. So it's an OG film.
I have to watch it. I've never watched it, but yes, it sounds like a great inspiration for this. And I also know you shared a video of the of how you created the work. Shall we share that one?
Sure. Why not?
Cool. Just a moment and I will have it on screen. I think it's this one. It's playing video.
I mean, it's quite a calm audio.
What we're seeing here is actually the
So this one would be the second edition, which I've created, and it actually was my latest drop last week. And this one, I decided to do a different pattern with it. I decided to give it a different scene, different vibe, a different color, just to give it a different story. And I think this is a series that I'm hoping to continue using the cheapal, because it's such a beautiful type of clothing. And I think, you know, there's so many ways and so many patterns, so many pattern combinations you can use. So yes, this one was my drop last week, and I'm very happy that my drop went through, and thank you to anybody who bidded on it. And yes, it's been collected by someone, so I'm very happy with that.
How does it feel, you know, to see your work sort of going to the hands of somebody else? You know, how do you feel about having your work sort of departing from you and arriving to somebody else collecting it?
Oh, it's great. It feels like a present. It feels like it's like you're baking a cake and you're going to give the cake to someone. It's like a really nice gesture, I think. Yeah, I don't really like, as much as I love my work, but it's like the reason why they collect it is because they appreciate it. They appreciate the craft. They like your work. So, you know, it's like a really lovely transaction between the two.
I love that metaphor. It's just, it's wonderful when it's true, when you bring a slice of cake to your friend. I think it's so nice to have that moment of sharing. Thank you for that, Steffi. And I'd love to hear from you now. What's next? You know, what are your plans? What do you have in the pipeline for working in either the digital fashion or any other projects you have?
Yeah, so I guess for next steps, one of them is to definitely continue this cheapal collection that I've started. I think it's a wonderful collection, and hoping that it will carry on and grow into a massive collection. Imagine like a massive collection like of 20 cheapals. Like that would be really like fascinating. So I'll keep on working on that as a separate project. And also what's really interesting for me is that, or what I'm quite passionate about, is interactive art or interactive design. So I'm really interested in augmented reality and virtual reality. I've worked with those mediums before. So I've no basic knowledge about it. And I think when it comes to NFT, as we discussed earlier, just having these garments, maybe one day they can become wearable in digital form. Like imagine if you're in a VR world or AR world and you could wear my designs. That would be that would be the dream. So I'm going to keep working hard on it. And yes, those are the two things that I would like to focus more in the future.
Mm-hmm. And if you were going to do a show, or if you could put your works together, how would you envision this coming to life? You know, I'm always interested to think about what artists think of that work, or how would they like to see it? You know, would you see your work in a real life environment, or would you keep it fully digital?
So yeah, I've had this question before, and people ask me, Steph, would you ever love to have your digital work become physical? And I'm like, at the current moment, I'm not that eager to make it physical yet, because in my opinion, there's enough physical clothes in the world. I don't think I need to add to that currently. I think digital fashion is definitely a space that I would like to explore, because it's so new. And if it does get to a point where people actually really, really want to wear like my designs physically, then we could think about that. But I think it's still too early days to even think about that. Maybe I think for sure my heart lies with digital, because I'm a digital artist.
Yes, that's a wonderful answer. And I think it's very deep in the sense that also includes unmindful thought about the accessibility, but also sustainability of fashion. So I love to hear that. And as much as I would love to wear it, I think it's also beautiful to be seen on screen and just to enjoy it as it is.
Thank you so much. I mean, if you get a VR headset, maybe one day you could wear it in VR.
Ooh,
that could be a thing. Or maybe, who knows, we could do an AR gallery. And I know there's definitely steps people have taken within AR to show digital fashion. So I would just like to say, just watch out for this space and let's see where it goes, because everything is so new and we're just kind of riding the wave and figuring it out.
Absolutely. Yes. We'll have to keep on learning from the tech advancements that are coming into the space, and definitely see the creative ways in which artists include technology in that work. And I have to say, you've done an amazing job in including all these aspects within the work that you created. So I hope everyone enjoyed this live conversation. Thank you all for sharing your comments and questions with us tonight. And I know you also have something coming up again with the Fabricant in the month. So we're gonna keep on watching what's happening on KO as well, and we'll support throughout with MoCDA talks as well for what's coming up for the Fabricant. But once again, congratulations for being one of the finalists on this project. And yes, is there any other event that you have planned for this month so we can come and watch you? Or you said every Thursday night you do the live on Twitch?
Yes, so I guess if anybody's interested, I do Twitch streams, which is why I have a lovely mic and a lovely headset. So I stream 3D content. So if you guys are interested in my process, or if you just want to ask me any questions or chat to me, I'm here every Thursday on Twitch, and you guys can find it on my my profile on Twitter and on KnownOrigin.
Yes, let me share it here once again. I think these are your Twitter and Instagram handle, so everyone.
I mean, to be honest, my handle is the same everywhere. So if you guys type in StephyFung on Twitch, you're gonna find me.
Cool. Yes. Yeah, very interesting. Thanks for sharing your work. Yes, I second that. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Good luck once again for the competition, and we'll follow you on Twitch, and stay tuned with your updates every Thursday night. Once again, thank you to KnownOrigin and MoCDA for putting the series together, and thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Steffi, it's been a real pleasure. See you again soon.
Thank you
so much. Everybody.
Bye.